All right, guys, welcome in with the NFL season fast approaching. I figured I would tier rank every single starting quarterback for week one, and I have personally customized and fully color-coded all of these tiers. We've got the ultra elite tier, the best of the best. There's probably going to be only 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this one. The franchise QB, really, really good, but not that elite level. Above average, solid quarterback, serviceable. Average, pretty self-explanatory. Below average, that's a QB that wins, maybe 7 to 8 games. They're whatever. And then the quarterbacks that really shouldn't be starting. There are several teams this year that are starting quarterbacks simply to lose, to try and get a top pick next year. But let's go ahead and rank these QBs. So Jameis Winston, I would say with Jameis, it's tough. The injury last year, we of course remember the 30-30 season, 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. That's still mind-blowing that he actually did that. I'm going to go right now, average to maybe slightly above average for Jameis. It'll be interesting. He's healthy. You've got Michael Thomas, who's also hopefully healthy. You got Chris Olave, your first-round pick, and then also Jarvis Landry coming over, a veteran presence. It'll be... we'll see how Jameis does, but overall, I would say he's in the better half of average, but I don't know if I can put him to the above average yet. We'll see how I rank these other guys, and just depends on how I rank these other guys. We might move Jameis up a tier, depending. Next with Derek Carr. So Derek Carr, this one's really easy. It's the prototypical above average. I think his contract speaks for itself. They know he's not a franchise quarterback. They gave him one of those dinky Kirk Cousins 3-year deals, extensions or whatever. We will see. You've got Darren Waller, you've got Hunter Renfrow, you've got Devontae Adams now. Derek Carr's a guy, really high completion percentage, but low yards per completion, meaning a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of short stuff. We'll see if he pushes the ball down the field more with Devontae Adams, but I would say prototypical above average quarterback. He's not elite. He's not a franchise QB. Just look at his contract. Next, we have Mac Jones. So Mac Jones, I'll say slightly above average. Ranking these young quarterbacks who are still on the way up is tough to do. It's kind of like you're ranking them based off of last year, but also what you think they're going to do. So with Mac Jones, I'll say behind Derek Carr at this point, but I would say overall an above average quarterback. He had a very good rookie season, with not a lot of weapons. He still really doesn't have a ton of weapons. He's got 2 pretty good tight ends. So I'll say above average, but behind Derek Carr. Next, we have Baker Mayfield, who will be starting for the Carolina Panthers. And with Baker, it's an enigma because Baker, I believe, can be an above average quarterback in the NFL, but I'm going to put him right next to Jameis. Last year, if you guys don't know the story, Baker had an amazing week 1. Week 2, he gets injured. He threw an interception, went to make a tackle. He injured his shoulder. His shoulder was injured the entire season. He's had a very up and down NFL career. Amazing rookie season with 27 touchdowns. Really bad year 2 with Freddie Kitchens. Bounces back, has a good year 3. And then last year has the issues with the shoulder injury and the whole saga with the Browns and Shaun Watson, and now he is the starting quarterback for Carolina. I think Baker has the potential to be a serviceable, above-average quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be a franchise quarterback personally. Next, Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold will not be starting, and how convenient. I put him in the shouldn't be starting category. Sam Darnold was the worst starting quarterback in the NFL last year. It is not surprising at all he lost the job to Baker Mayfield this season. You can say what you want. He gets drafted by the Jets. It's a bad situation. But overall, at the end of the day, sometimes, guys are just not good. And Sam Darnold, I believe, is just not good. Next, we have Justin Herbert. So clearly, Justin Herbert is going to be one of these 2 categories, ultra elite or franchise quarterback. It's just how exclusive do I want to make the ultra elite tier? I think I'm going to leave him at the front end of franchise QB. You're talking about an unbelievable rookie season, followed up, 0 sophomore slump, another great year. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Mike Williams. He's got Austin Eckler out of the backfield. They're going to have a really good offense. And one of my bold predictions, as long as Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and Derwin James stay healthy, that's a big if. But I do think the Chargers will actually win the extremely competitive AFC West, the toughest division in football. Justin Herbert, to me, maybe I'll move him up depending on the other quarterbacks, but right now I'd say front end, definitely a franchise quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa, so he's very hard to rank. I'm going to put him in average right now, the front end of average. It's like this is Tua's year, right? The last few years, not a great situation. Other than Jalen Waddle as a rookie, really no one to throw to. Now you've got a developing Mike Gesicki as a possible elite tight end. You've got Tyreek Hill, who they gave a first-round pick for. So this is really Tua's year to prove it. I actually think Tua, honestly, I can't do it, but I feel like Tua should be here. But it's like, has he proven enough to be... I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave Tua. I think Tua's in a butt. Like, last year, to me, he proved enough. He's at least serviceably, he's at least a guy that could be on the trajectory to be a franchise quarterback. I think the hate around Tua, that he had an injury. I like Tua as a potential franchise quarterback. Next, it's Justin Fields. So with Justin right now, it has to be the below average. I cannot believe this is actually happening right before our eyes. I don't know if you guys saw Justin Fields on Monday Night Football. He is a tank. He is a literal physical specimen, and everyone goes crazy and says that, oh, the franchise ruined the quarterback. No, with the Bears, it's legitimately they're ruining this poor kid's career. They didn't get him any help. Their first 2 picks in the second round of the draft, they drafted defense. You got to get him a receiver. I was begging them to draft David Bell, and they didn't do it. Or Trey McBride. They didn't do it. And you're talking about throwing to Byron Pringle. Mooney's a really good young receiver, but other than that, it's so sad what has happened to Justin Fields. He is he's a physical specimen. He's a really good athlete, and I think he does have the overall touch and accuracy. Remember, this guy was the number 2 recruit in his recruiting class overall, behind only Trevor Lawrence. He's an elite player. And I would say it's just tough at this point. There's really nothing else I can do other than put him in below average for right now. And there's really no receiver help on the way at this point. Next, we have Kyler Murray. So I think this is fairly obvious. Kyler Murray is definitely not ultra elite, but he certainly is a franchise QB behind Justin Herbert. The one concern we have with Kyler, obviously the whole playbook thing, with the whole Call of Duty. I don't know what that was about. They gave him the massive contract. My main issue is, we've seen these young quarterbacks have success, but Kyler's so small. I mean, I don't want to call him a midget, but he's so small, there's almost a ceiling to how good you can be if you're that small in the NFL. He can still be a good quarterback, and he's proven that he's a good quarterback with a great arm. And being small also helps him wiggle out of things, maneuver the pocket, things like that. He's really good at manipulating it, but he's so small. So I'm going to say franchise quarterback for him. They do have the DeAndre Hopkins suspension, and then he'll be back after 6 games. They also lost Christian Kirk to the Jaguars, so we'll see with them. Next, we have Daniel Jones, who is still on the Giants. I don't know why he's in Cardinals colors there, but I'm going to say with Daniel Jones right next to Justin Fields. You could make an argument and say he's above Justin Fields. I'm putting Fields above him just due to upside. This is Daniel Jones last year starting. I think everyone knows it. The Giants will either get a quarterback in free agency next year, draft a quarterback. It's a formality at this point. Daniel Jones, I've seen everything I need to see to say that Daniel Jones is not going to be a legitimate starter. They're not going to continue wasting years starting Daniel Jones. He could be definitely a decent backup in the NFL, but he is simply not a starter, and I think this is his last year being a true starter in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, you could definitely say, I'll put him towards the back. I'll put him in front of Tua right now in above average. So Jalen Hurts definitely has issues throwing the football. He's a really good running quarterback. Maybe he gets helped a little bit with A.J. Brown. I also love Dallas Goedert, personally, the big tight end, and also Devontae Smith. So they do have legitimate receivers. You've also got Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield. So Jalen Hurts, they're expecting, will he take that next step? Will they finally win that division over Dallas? I don't think it's going to happen, but they certainly are set up to where they've given Jalen Hurts that solid number 1 receiver in A.J. Brown. It's just, can he be a good enough thrower of the football to really move into that franchise tier? Right now, I'd say he's a solid above average quarterback due to his running. Next, Patrick Mahomes. It's got to be ultra elite. It'll be interesting with Mahomes without Tyreek Hill, that, dynamic, deep threat speed presence. I think he will be fine with Andy Reid, and he has just had unbelievably historic start to his career. Already has a ring at this point, this young into his career. It is crazy. I don't think anyone's going to disagree, even though maybe he's had a few down years. It's tough to, win the MVP every single year, so I'm going to put him there. Drew Lock, who they've got as an African-American. So Drew Lock shouldn't be starting. I'm going to put Sam. These two are so close, Sam Darnold and Drew Lock. I don't think Drew Lock is starting. I believe they're going with Geno Smith, but it's very clear Seattle at this point is tanking. They want to lose games. They want either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. So you're going to start, Geno Smith. They'll probably be 1-7, and then they'll say, hey, let's switch to the younger guy, Drew Lock, and then they'll proceed to finish like 2-15. That's what's going to happen with them. Carson Wentz, average. I mean, honestly, I am not a fan of Carson Wentz, guys. I might even keep him behind Baker Mayfield, especially with that Commanders offense. The Commanders are interesting. Curtis Samuel was injured much of last year. I don't think Antonio Gibson is any good as a running back. J.D. McKissick out of the backfield. You've got Terry McLaurin, they signed to a 3-year extension. Good player. But other than that, I just don't think Carson Wentz is very good. He put up really good numbers, actually, last year with Indianapolis, like 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but it's all fluff. I mean, you can put up look at Kirk Cousins. Look at Derek Carr. You can put up good numbers in the NFL with the way the rules are and how much they favor quarterbacks. So, speaking of Kirk Cousins, I will say Kirk Cousins probably somewhere over here in terms of he is an above-average quarterback, but he is certainly not a franchise quarterback. I'm going to put him right next to... Actually, I'm going to put it in front of Derek Carr because I do think Kirk Cousins is good. But in terms of... He's a guy that if he's going to have success and make a deep playoff run, he's literally going to need every position to be elite on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you've got Adam Thielen, you've got Justin Jefferson, you've got Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, you've got good players on that offense, and he's put up good stats. But we've seen time after time with Kirk Cousins, a lot of his numbers are garbage time. They just are, and that has to be factored in to my overall evaluation of him. So I'll say front end of above average for now, in front of Derek Carr, I believe that, but certainly not a franchise quarterback. Next is Matthew Stafford. So Stafford, definitely a franchise QB, wins the Super Bowl with the Rams, Sean McVay. I would say just a solid franchise quarterback. I'm not putting him in ultra elite. I don't think he's ever received an MVP vote or anything like that, so I can't do that. And also, I just think Justin Herbert is a better overall player, even at this point with how young he is. Stafford, in my opinion, I would take over Murray. I think some of it has to do with the offense, but I would take Stafford and his just overall, he's got such an elite arm, and it was a really unbelievable. He's really put himself maybe on a Hall of Fame trajectory getting that ring last year, getting his first ring, really his first playoff success at all. Next, we have Deshaun Watson, so this is going to be tough to rank Deshaun, but I mean, listen, we're not talking about off the field, if we're talking about on the field performance, I mean, it's got to be, it's got to be like right here or even ultra elite. I'm not going to put him in ultra elite because he doesn't have an MVP or anything like that. But Deshaun Watson is an absolute beast. And you can talk off the field issues, obviously, the 11-game suspension, but on the field, there's a reason the Browns gave up 3 first-round picks for him or whatever it was. He is unbelievable. Next, we have Davis Mills. So Davis Mills... Guys, Davis Mills should not be starting. I don't know where this hype around Davis Mills has gotten. You want to know why Houston is starting Davis Mills? Because they want the number 1 overall pick. I guarantee you they will get a top 2 or 3 pick. They will be drafting a quarterback. This is Davis Mills' last time starting in the NFL. Trust me, Davis Mills is not an NFL viable starting quarterback. Okay, people are like, well, as a rookie, he threw for a lot of yards on a horrible team, all in garbage time. I'm just being honest, guys. Davis Mills is not a quarterback that will be starting or very similar to Daniel Jones. But they've gone with Daniel Jones for like 5 years now. I guess that's what happens when you invest the 6th overall pick into someone. But next we have Jared Goff. Very prototypical, below average quarterback. I think Fields has more upside, so I'm going to put him behind Fields, but in front of Daniel Jones. I like that spot for Jared Goff. Not horrible. he's a guy that can facilitate a good fantasy receiver season. Like, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to have a good season. They've got a young nucleus there. DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. You've also got Jameson Williams, the speedster from Alabama. I like what they're building. And how about TJ Hawkinson as well? So I think they're going to draft a quarterback. Personally, in the first round, this will be Jared Goff's last year starting with Detroit. He's kind of like a placeholder, in my opinion. Next, we have a Russell Wilson, who is clearly a front-end franchise quarterback. You could certainly argue Russell Wilson or Justin Herbert based off his track record. I know he had a down year last year, but I will give Russell Wilson honestly, I think Herbert might have the better season just because of the cast. I will say Jerry Jeudy's going to be unbelievable. Guys, if you can do it, draft Jerry Jeudy in fantasy. He's going to be crazy. Overall, I think Herbert probably does have the better year than Russell Wilson slightly, but Russell Wilson assuredly is a franchise quarterback. I'm not going to put him in the ultra elite tier. He doesn't have an MVP. I don't even think he has an MVP vote, so he will stay there. Next, we have Cam Newton. So I don't think Cam Newton is starting in the NFL at this point. I'm not sure why he's on here. I would say, depending on what happens as a starter in the NFL, he shouldn't be starting, and I'll put him in front. I mean, he was really bad last year, guys. He was. I'll put him down there. We have Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco should not be starting either. I would put him behind Sam Darnold. We've got some interesting ones here. Do we not have Kenny Pickett? Oh, I don't think there's Kenny Pickett, because I think Kenny Pickett should be starting. When you look at Kenny Pickett, the Steelers, he's an older rookie, and I think Mike Tomlin is the type of coach to really let the rookie quarterback play. Next, we have Joe Burrow. So I was going to say, I almost thought Tom Brady wasn't on there. Joe Burrow, definitely franchise quarterback. I would say in front of Stafford. Yeah. So in front of Stafford, behind Wilson is probably right where I would put Burrow. You could make an argument he should be right with Herbert. Very similar. I mean, these guys are all franchise quarterbacks. It's just, is Joe Burrow good enough to make the jump to the ultra elite tier? You've got Jamar Chase. You've got T. Higgins. You've got a really good young offensive nucleus. Joe Mixon as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of the encore Cincinnati has after making the Super Bowl as an underdog, if they're able to win the AFC North over Baltimore. That'll be a really good battle. Next, we've got Mitchell Trubisky. So I think Mitchell Trubisky's probably back end of average. Mitch Trubisky actually is a surprisingly good runner. He's a good athlete. I don't think he's going to be starting. I think with what Kenny Pickett's done, the Steelers recognize that. They know this is kind of a rebuild, retool season for them. They want to get Kenny Pickett, their future franchise quarterback, as much experience as possible this year. Maybe Trubisky starts a few games, but I really think, based on how Kenny Pickett's played, he will be starting. Next, we have Teddy Bridgewater. So Teddy Bridgewater at this point, I mean, let's be real, he shouldn't be starting. We've seen him several times. Very similar to Jacoby Brissett at this point in his career. You could say maybe below average. I don't know, man. I think he's worse than Davis Mills. I'll say better than Sam Darnold, worse than Davis Mills. Right there. Zach Wilson. So Zach Wilson, very similar to Justin Fields. I mean, they're virtually, I don't know who I would put in front. Last year as rookies, both had bad offenses. Both performed very poorly. This year, at least, Zach Wilson, he had that injury scare in preseason, but at least he's got Garrett Wilson, who I love. You've got Elijah Moore. Corey Davis, we'll see. At least he has some offensive weapons to work with. So I will put him below average and leave him right there, honestly, because I think his trajectory should be decent. Josh Allen, ultra elite to me. He's a guy that MVP favorite this year. The Bills, they're knocking on the door. I personally have them making the Super Bowl this season. I think it happens. Really elite offense. Josh Allen, elite thrower. Way more accurate than people expected. Extremely strong arm. Extremely physical. Runs for 6-7 touchdowns a season. He's a top 2 or 3 quarterback at worst in the NFL. I'm going to put him behind Mahomes because I think Mahomes is more accurate and has accomplished more, honestly. So this is a tough one. Trey Lance, I've got a huge man crush on Trey Lance, guys. I really do. Just because he's only started like 2 games, I cannot put him really anywhere other than like towards the back end of above average. But I think Trey Lance is going to be a franchise quarterback. He's in literally if you guys can draft Trey Lance 7th, 8th round of fantasy, literally the perfect position. Great offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. Great weapons. You've got Deebo Samuel. You've got Brandon Ayuk. You've got hopefully a healthy George Kittle. You've got a decent enough running game. Unbelievable defense led by Nick Bosa. Eric Armstead. I mean, that team is loaded. They're loaded. And I think Trey Lance, his running ability, he's also a good enough passer. Trey Lance is going to be a franchise quarterback by the end of the year. I can't put him there right now. I'm trying to be fair. By the end of the year, he'll be a franchise quarterback. Ryan Tannehill, somewhere with these two. Somewhere, I'll say in front of Derek Carr and behind Cousins in the above-average tier, in my opinion, with Tannehill. He's another guy that can run a little bit. But overall, Tannehill's getting older. I think he's already past his peak. He had a few good years with Tennessee, but now it's really, they're so reliant on Derrick Henry. And I think trading A.J. Brown and trying to replace him with Treylon Burks, I really think Treylon Burks is going to be a bust. We'll see. But I called it on draft night. I do not like Treylon Burks personally. Next, we have Dak Prescott. So Dak's a franchise quarterback. Where I want to put him, I would say maybe in between Stafford and Kyler Murray. This year with Dak, no Amari Cooper, the wide receiver, it's limited. They're going to rely on CeeDee Lamb mainly. You've also got Dalton Schultz. Dak, a little underwhelming last year, the first year after the massive contract extension. The overall offense wasn't, the normal elite. Dak does throw for a lot of yards. He tends to throw for a lot of passing yards. I will be interested to see if they use Tony Pollard more in that offense. And Dak's a franchise quarterback. He wins games. They make the playoffs. He throws for a ton of yards. He has a good, overall ratio, things like that. He is a good quarterback. Lamar Jackson, I'll say franchise quarterback, definitely. It's very tough. I will probably move Lamar because he was injured last year. We know he won the MVP. I'll say franchise quarterback in between Wilson and Joe Burrow. That is where I'll put Lamar Jackson. Again, it's tough because he was injured for part of the year last year. He's a young quarterback. We're seeing how he's able to develop really as a passer. That's his main struggle, but he still is a franchise quarterback. The way he can maneuver the pocket and things like that. We'll see if he can stay healthy this season. Very dynamic. Next, we've got Tom Brady. So, with Tom Brady, at what point... we're waiting for it. We're really waiting for it. He's got Julio Jones now, although Julio Jones is really old, but Russell Gage, Chris Godwin they re-signed. He's got Mike Evans still. Leonard Fournette's a great pass-catching running back. I think you still have to put him in the ultra elite. I'm not putting him in front of Mahomes or Allen, but it's just at this point, it's like the dude's like 55. Like, my God, you would think at some point, see a decline. Next, we have Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan, I think, is going to be rejuvenated on the Colts. He's a solid, to me, right now, above-average quarterback. And I think I'll put him in front of Ryan Tannehill. I think he's in a really good position, good offensive line, superstar running back. Michael Pittman is a really good emerging receiver. We'll see if Paris Campbell can stay healthy. But I like Matt Ryan as an above-average quarterback. Aaron Rodgers... he's got to be ultra elite. The question is, I will have him in front of Brady due to Brady's age mainly. I think Aaron Rodgers made a catastrophic decision where you got to leave Green Bay, man. They literally trade Devontae Adams. They replace him with nobody. They take two defenders in the first round. His number one wide receiver is Allen Lazard. So I think Aaron Rodgers made a catastrophic decision, but the dude's won the last two MVPs. You have to put him in ultra elite. And then we've got Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going to put Trevor Lawrence on the back end of average. You talk about the big three quarterbacks of that draft, Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields, all in very similar positions. But I think Trevor Lawrence showed a little bit more promise than the other two last year, at least as a pocket passer. So these would be my rankings. I like how these rankings look with just 4 ultra elite guys. You've got your fair share of franchise quarterbacks. The above average guys, some of these guys could be franchise quarterbacks depending on how they do this season. The average quarterbacks right here. Baker could play like an above average quarterback. It's just the injury. It's tough to really rank him. Below average guys, and then the guys that shouldn't be starting down at the bottom. So guys, just wanted to do this before the start of the season, but that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.